Okay, welcome friends to this seminar on JS where we will be discussing number of things, and here is the schedule that I have made for today, which all the areas that we will be talking on. We'll just give a brief introduction of the UPSC examination and the various stages, eligibility criteria, and all the kind of aptitudes which you will be requiring. Then we'll little bit have a discussion about the syllabus, the study material, writing practice, how to do, when to start, and everything. And then, in the last part, we'll also talk about the GS, how we'll be doing at guidance, and what will be the core areas, the strengths, how we'll be different from the others. So, this is what it is all about. So, I hope, first of all, you have all have come here. So, what do you, if I ask you, what you feel about the UPSC exam? Anybody would like to say? What are your views about UPSC exam? Because you all are here definitely with lots of questions in mind, lots of confusion, and number of what to choose, what to study. But behind all these, there must be some kind of strength also, some kind of motivation also, which would have definitely made you prepare for this examination. So, if I just ask you, what do you know about UPSC exam? Anyone would like to say anything? And it can be anything. Even a general perception would do. Hmm. One of the prestigious jobs, it will provide you one of the prestigious jobs of India. And I would say, I'll definitely agree with you on this, that this examination will give you the best job in India. Not one of the best, not one of the prestigious. It is in a way we can say that through a competitive examination, probably you will get the best job that is available in India. Because any other job you compare, you will not have the same kind of profile. You'll not have the same kind of, if you talk about the growth avenues. So no doubt in that sense. Anybody else want to say anything about UPSC exam? It's one of the okay ways to serve the country. What's your name? Okay, tell me, do you really think that most of the IAS officers, after they are going in the services, are they really serving the country well? There are people who will be serving. In fact, when and if you reach to the interview stage, they will be asking you definitely this thing, that to prepare, that why you want to become a civil servant. And definitely this answer of your will be helpful there, we'll see. And although it has to have more layers, because no doubt most of the common people, they want to serve the country, there's no doubt about that. And you can serve the country not just by being an IAS officer, you can serve the country even by being a common man. And everyone is serving the country. This is, I really believe, what has happened right now. The politicization of serving the country, which is one of the problems that we are facing in recent times. But no doubt, you will be serving the country with this examination. Hmm. If you get through. Anybody else? When I started to prepare, when I thought about preparation, and I would consult my seniors about the exam, civil services. I wanted to know about the civil services exam. The first of the responses I got, and it was not from just one, it was from number of people, was तेरा दिमाग खराब हो गया, civil services की तैयारी करेगा. Because normally what happens, being like, if you do not have that kind of educational background like the IITs or IIMs, something like that, people will always have a doubt that you suited for the examination, because this examination is considered to be the toughest examination in India. I have my views, I have reservations with respect to this view. No doubt there are number of elements of toughness, and there is something which actually makes it one of the toughest exams in India. But one thing is very, very clear, that the idea is very, very far fetched, that to say that it is one of the toughest examination, and other things which I heard when I first decided to prepare was that ki you have to become bookworm, सुना होगा किताबी कीड़ा इस एग्जाम को पास करने के लिए, and number of other things कि if you don't study like 15-18 hours in a day, then you forget about कि selection होने वाला है, कभी भूल के सोच भी नहीं सकते हो. So obviously number of things were there, and there are a number of types of perceptions about the civil services examination. If you ask me to have a brief view about the examination, I would simply say that actually you have all faced this kind of examination, UPSC examination. And I think almost of you will agree that we all have given our board examination. Board examination diya hai? So UPSC examination is not very different. What makes it little bit different is essentially the enormous amount of syllabus that you have to cover. Otherwise, if you look into the what is the nature of your board examination में क्या करना होता था? Tell me, what you had to do in the board examination? Yes, very good. This is what we used to do in our board examination. We used to prepare our syllabus thoroughly, and we used to solve some previous year questions. इतना ही करते थे. And we used to go and we used to do very well in the board examination. Most of us would have done it. At least जितना यूपीएससी में चाहिए होता है सिलेक्ट होने के लिए 50% मार्क्स, उतने तो यहाँ पर जितने भी बैठे हैं सबके आए होंगे. ठीक है. So that used to be the case. And actually, if you look into UPSC examination, this is the case. Although we will see that what happens actually, because there is some kind of information deficit regarding the examination. Also, this information deficit arises because UPSC is not very transparent, in the sense many things are not very clear. Like for example, you will find many people arguing that I did my exams very well, but I didn't get selected. You'll find number of people having this claim. So why this claim? It is essentially because, now even in your CBSE and other examinations, it is a guideline of the code that you can see your copies. Here, however, you cannot see your copies. So what is the main problem that happens is that a student, why and how he is underperforming, he or she is unable to evaluate. And that creates lots of questions, lots of confusion, and multitude number of views. So many multiple number of views are there that if you just go and roam in the market and you start asking people how to prepare for civil services UPSC examination, they will tell you n number of ways. And let me tell you, all those n number of ways are correct. They have worked for some people. The basic thing is that whether they will work for you or not, again, that is to be seen, that is to be, ultimately you will prove it to be correct or not. But this is the kind of the issue with UPSC. And in this context, what happens, the UPSC exam, because we already know that there is lots of prestige associated with the UPSC examination. If you become an IAS officer, essentially you can understand that, uh, like at least in a district where you will be posted, or even in the secretariat where you'll be posted, you will have a huge influence. And more specifically, if you are selected as an IAS officer, then there is ranking, there is IPS, and again, number of services are there. But Obviously, if you get the top three services, the respect that you will be having in the society, the bright future in the context of your personal growth that you will be having, it is huge. And thus, there is huge prestige associated with the examination. Now, we all know that India is having a demographic dividend. सुना है किसी ने? Demographic dividend क्या होता है? So demographic dividend is a situation where number of young people in the population is very high. The percentage of young people in the population is very high. And this is the case with India. Demographic dividend we are facing right now. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to cash upon our demographic dividend because we haven't been able to provide the same number of jobs which there is demand. The supply of jobs is very less. And in that case, suppose you are not getting job or you are not getting job at the level which you require, because getting a job is not a big issue. Anyone can get job, like if you want to do a domestic servant work or some other work, आजकल तो वो पकौड़ा बेचना भी एक जॉब ही माना जा रहा है. So whatever you want to do, you can do, but the level which you think you are, and you are not getting that kind of a job. So tell me what you will be doing. What will uh, be your next step? Will you join any other job, or will you think that let me prepare for something better and let me invest my time and resources well, and I have the capacity to essentially clear the examination? Yes or no? I think the second option is the most of the people will be choosing that option. And as a result of this, you can understand that there is huge number of students who are actually applying for civil services examination. If you look into, if you actually also count the number of people actually applying for the PC's examination, it becomes a big number. And as a result, you can understand that it thus becomes what? It becomes a very huge economic opportunity. And we also run a coaching institute. There is no doubt it is economic opportunity for us as well. But it becomes a very huge economic opportunity. And tell me, if you are a coaching owner, or if you are someone who is providing directions to the student, you want they come and join your classes, etc., etc. In which scenario you think that you will be able to earn more profit? If there is fear among the students with respect to the examination, or if the students are very confident about the examination, in which case do you think that you will be able to encash upon more number of students? Tell me. When there is lots of fear in the students, when there is lots of confusion, then what will happen? More number of people will be coming and again joining the classes, and that will be economically very beneficial. So I'll tell you, when we'll discuss number of things regarding syllabus and everything, how number of, if you talk about ways in which uh, misconceptions are there, so many types of misconceptions which are there in the market. And all this makes UPSC a little bit kind of difficult examination. So really, I have a firm belief that the main problem, the main thing that UPSC, what is difference between UPSC examination, the IAS examination, and your board examination is the information deficit. In fact, you can understand this information deficit right now has got converted into an information excess. सुना होगा आज की डेट में क्या है? You just open YouTube or any, like Google it, and there is n number of sites giving information on that same issue. And you open and you will be finding कि ये तो सब important लग रहा है. Someone will have presented it in a different manner. Someone would have added some more facts, figures. Someone would have added some other way of presentation. And you will feel like कि ये सब important है यार. So to which to go through? Which one to choose? Again, lots of confusion. So this makes the basic difference. जब हम बोर्ड का एग्जाम दे रहे थे तो क्या हम कंफ्यूज थे? टेल मी. बिल्कुल नहीं. सीधा सा बात पता थी कि ये सिलेबस है भाई और इसी में से क्वेश्चन आएंगे. इफ आई प्रिपेयर then what will happen? I will be able to do well in the examination, and that is what happened. We prepared, we went into examination, and we did well in our board. That is what happened. So ideally, this should also be happening in case of UPSC. But again, as I said, because of the information deficit, it is not happening. And this is essentially the main issue. So if we talk about the UPSC examination, you all know UPSC examination. No doubt, I would say that it is the one of the best examination of India in terms of the type of questions which are asked, in terms of what you have to study. And I always say to my students one thing, that don't just think about the result in the UPSC, because it is really my firm belief that if you have prepared well for the examination, even if take the worst case scenario that you didn't got selected, you had to leave the preparation, ultimately either uh, you exhausted or your attempts, or you ultimately felt you don't want to give. Still, if you have prepared well, no matter where you are, no matter in which field you are, you will always be a leader. And I always like, after I prepared for UPSC, I understood this, that how much mistaken I was as a child. So बचपन में हम सब ने बहुत सारे वो सुपर हीरोज के कार्टून देखे होंगे, वो सुपरमैन और बैटमैन एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा बहुत सारे होते थे. इंडिया में वो एक बन गया था शक्तिमान. ठीक है. सो in all of these, you would have seen one thing, that the superhuman is someone who has some extraordinary powers. That is someone who is called as superhuman being. As you grow mature enough, you will ultimately realize that we have been lied our whole childhood. Because actually, a superhuman being is someone who has great amount of knowledge. If you have that knowledge, definitely you are a superhuman being. And that is what makes you super. So, UPSC preparation, if you talk about this UPSC exam, no matter what is going to be the end result, if you actually work hard, it will make you that superhuman being, because you will have enormous amount of knowledge. So many of my students, they remind me these things when they meet me. Those who I'm talking about, those who didn't get selected, that we went into this field, we went into journalism or whatever field they chose later on. And what happened? They are their leaders. They are the ones everyone looks towards. So that is the kind of examination that we are talking about. We will discuss how the syllabus is well distributed. It makes you cover so many areas. Many things you will be knowing which you wouldn't have even imagined that this is also happening. Okay, so that is the nature of the UPSC examination. You know, UPSC examination, normally the preparation time that you require is around 1 year. सब यही बोलते हैं, 1 साल का time लगता है. It depends. मेरा मानना है कि it depends on number of factors. कि 1 साल का time लगेगा कि 2 साल का time लगेगा, or it will become a 5 year plan, and even it can go into more rolling plans. It would depend upon number of factors. First and the foremost factor is essentially the right guidance. If you get the right guidance, then if you also supplement it with lots of hard work, and I would say that not only hard work but smart work, then actually it is possible. I have seen people do that in actually 1 year. In fact, in guidance, the first student of guidance who got selected in the first batch itself, Shivi Sangwan, was one of my students. And she had a very strong motivation. See, she came, she was doing some job somewhere. And she came and she told me that कि सर मेरे पास बस एक ही साल है और एक साल में मुझे सेलेक्ट होना है. So मैंने पूछा उसे, I asked her why you have to get selected, why only 1 year, because you look to be from a good family and your age is fine and you can give attempts. So she told me that अगर इस साल select नहीं हुई तो अगले साल घर वाले मेरी शादी कर देंगे. And that was literally her motivation कि किसी भी हालत में इसी साल select होना है, नहीं हुए तो अगले साल शादी हो जाएगी. And against all the odds she fought and she got selected. She didn't get the top rank, but she was in the list. She got some I think 300, in 300 ranks she was. So that is the case. There are n number of factors. The biggest factor is the motivation you have. And I find every day I interact with students and I find one big problem here when I use the word motivation. When students are coming, no doubt, sometimes we all need motivations, outside motivation. But what has happened many times, we become too much dependent upon others for motivation, upon the teachers, upon some friends, upon family members, etc., etc. And we are always seeking that motivation so that someone can motivate me and I can go and study. Again, this strategy is not going to work. This has made many of the institutes you will see कि वो सिविल सर्विसेज की कोचिंग के बजाय वो आस्था चैनल और उस तरह के वो चैनल्स आते हैं ना, वैसे बन चुके हैं. Literally at least 1 hour the teacher will be trying to motivate the students and all the students also enjoy. क्योंकि भाई अगर मैं तुमसे फालतू की बातें करूं इधर उधर की, क्योंकि बचपन से एज आई टोल्ड यू हमें यही बताया गया कि सुपर हीरो बनने के लिए we need something which is external powers, some extraordinary powers, and we were not told that education is that power. Then definitely we will not like to study. अगर शुरू से ही बता दिया गया होता कि इसी एजुकेशन में इतनी पावर होती है, इसी से सुपर हीरो बनते हो, तो सबका पढ़ने में मन लगता है यार, क्योंकि सभी सुपर हीरो बनना चाहते हैं एज अ चाइल्ड. So the thing is that ultimately what you have to do, you have to have that internal motivation. So when you are thinking about civil services examination, first factor that you have to keep in mind is that motivation. Why you started preparing for the examination? What was your motivation? Whenever you feel like you got lost, whenever you feel like you are feeling low, you go back to the roots. Why you started preparing? What was the main reason? There must have been some important reason. Otherwise, यूपीएससी अगर बोलें तो सीधी बात है, ओखली में सर देने के बराबर है. इट इज समथिंग लाइक दैट. तो ओखली में अगर सर दिया है तो कोई तो मोटिवेशन होगा ना, अदरवाइज यू आर जस्ट क्रेजी. सो यू हैव टू गो बैक टू दैट मोटिवेशन. Then there are other factors as well when we talk about the UPSC preparation. Like one I said was the correct guidance. And this is also a very, very important factor, a very important factor. And you can understand, I will tell you my personal story as a student when I started preparing. So I started preparing in my own city, Lucknow, regional center it was. And if you are aware, most of the regional center, the coachings are not up to the mark. Teachers also, they don't have much idea about how to actually prepare for UPSC examination. So I went there and I talked to one of the teachers who was teaching, and the teacher told me name of 20 books geography के लिए, just for geography, because I was planning to take geography optional. She told me name of 20 books. नया था, जोश बहुत ज़्यादा था, सारी की सारी खरीद लाया, एक भी नहीं छोड़ी. And I started preparing, and you'll not believe, I started to read, and in just 2 months I had already finished 3 books which were to be read. And I kept on reading, kept on reading. Then after some time I came to Delhi. And when I came to Delhi, I actually met in the classes, there were students who were already qualified. There were students who were living here who had a great experience of UPSC. At least they had appeared till interview. And there were also good teachers who could give better direction, better guidance. And then I came to know कि इतना तो पढ़ना ही नहीं होता यार. Then I ultimately understood that many things which I was searching and making notes for from the books, many of those things were already like notes written already in NCRT. But उसमें उस टीचर ने तो NCRT के बारे में बताया ही नहीं था. So what actually happened was, वो डायरेक्शन स्टार्ट में ही गड़बड़ हो गया और वो रिसर्च मोड की जो आदत थी वो स्टार्टिंग में ही पड़ गई. एंड obviously you can understand that if you go in such a research mode, you will end up as a teacher rather than a selected student. There is a more possibility of that, and ultimately this is what happened. I tried till last to inculcate inside me the same things. I knew the mistakes which I was doing, but because something from the beginning was inside me कि ज्यादा पढ़ना है यार, ज्यादा पढ़ना है और पढ़ना है, ये बुक भी पढ़नी है, फिनिश करना है, परफेक्ट प्रिपरेशन होनी चाहिए. And because of that, essentially what happened, I couldn't resist myself from reading so many books. And the problem is, everybody has limitation of cranial capacity. हम सभी का mind एक limited mind है, एक limited information को assimilate कर सकता है. So what happened? I studied so much things, but when it came to, I did very well in prelims. I was always very well in prelims. Because I will explain you later that the prelims examination is more about extensiveness of knowledge. So when I was reading so many books, I had very extensive knowledge. But when it came to mains, we will see that it is more about consolidation of knowledge. I should know less, but it should be on my tongues. I should be able to recall everything at my will. And when I studied so much extensively, I lacked that consolidation. And thus, the performance in mains, which should have been at the amount of hours I used to put, which should have been very, very good, it was not there. And why it was not there? Because the first directions went wrong. And no matter how much I tried, it was very difficult to correct it later on. So that is what I'm talking about. Another very important factor is that correct guidance that you are getting. Now, if these two combine and you also have the capacity, the resources available, no doubt, resource is another very, very important factor, because अगर मुझे बहुत सारी चीज़ें पता भी हैं and again, but I do not have that resources. Like for example, guidance notes are very, very well structured notes. And if you personally know me, some of you might be knowing me, I am a very famous teacher of geography optional. And basically, my notes are at least 10 times better than whatever is available in the market. And if, as a student, you can get access to that notes and you can read those notes and you can prepare from them, it will be, you'll have a huge advantage over others. Okay, so same thing as I'm saying, resource, availability of resources is another very, very key factor which is going to affect your preparation, your selection probability and everything. However, if these three are present, one, that internal motivation that we talked about, second, the correct guidance and the optimum resources, I would say optimum resources, then again, there is very high chance that you'll go on and do well in the examination. एक फोर्थ फैक्टर भी है जिसके बारे में तुम लोग अभी जान लो तो ज्यादा बेटर होगा. एंड दिस फोर्थ फैक्टर इज nomenclated by different people in with different words. Like someone will call it luck, someone will give it different names. Normally हम उसे luck कहते हैं, ठीक है. सो नो डाउट एक और फोर्थ फैक्टर भी है जिसे लक बोलते हैं. तो कभी कभी ऐसा होता है कि यू आर वेरी वेल प्रिपेयर्ड बट इट इज नॉट योर डेस्टिनी. सो नो मैटर व्हाट यू डू, you will not get selected. And I have seen students so much hard working. In fact, I personally, if you ask me, I really felt that third attempt when I was going for the examination, that was I had the best preparation at that time. But that was the only attempt in which I didn't get the interview call. It is a kind of paradox. But there is a reason for that. A reason was that ki just before, one day before examination, where I used to live in Delhi, there was lots of construction work started. And my head started paining and दिन में सो गया because of headache. रात भर पूरी रात नींद नहीं आई. अगले दिन जाकर के एग्जाम देने पहुंच गया. It went pathetically. It was pathetic. And first examination going wrong, again you lose all the motivation. First paper went wrong and I really lost all my motivation. So that was a very, very big setback. So that is what I'm saying. Luck is another factor which is there in the examination. And this is the reason I would suggest you don't make ideal strategies for this UPSC examination. Ideal strategies never work. अगर ये सोचते हो कि मैं ऐसा कर लूंगा कि बिल्कुल perfect, I will prepare the examination and I'll go no matter what. I have seen students, many students will not give कि इस साल सर पेपर नहीं दे रहा हूँ. क्यों नहीं दे रहे हो भैया? तो because there was my preparation, I am not confident, I have not prepared this well. I tell them कि अगले साल तो फिर यही करेगा. Because if you have that kind of idealism, it is going to stop you, it is going to block you. So in UPSC examination, you have to be more practical and know that there are two type of factors: internal, external. Internal we can be sure about, external we cannot be sure about. But agar, as I told you, if we have done our internal, controlled our internal factors, probability of selection will be quite high. And students come to me कि मेरे marks कम आए. I always tell them you must have done some mistake. You have to look into what mistake you did. And you try to find out. Those who are really serious, they actually find out. I tell them, recall what you wrote in the examination, what you have presented, how you have presented. Try to recall. And when they show, ultimately, we sit and find that this is the mistake you did and why you did this mistake. So many times it is like, you cannot even imagine a student who used to do so well in the examinations, the tests which we used to conduct. But he or she went into the examination, the actual examination, and did some big blunders. What you will call it? I would simply call it as a luck. Or maybe, probably, controlling of emotions, etc., different type of names you can give. Okay. So this is some general introduction of the UPSC examination. This is the task that you are going to face. Believe me, there are two aspects of UPSC. One is the real, and the second one is the perception. What is the problem? Most of the people deal upon the perception. What perception is there of UPSC? Reality, if you know, if you have that information about what actually is the real examination of UPSC and how it needs to be prepared, it is not so much difficult as is portrayed. Okay? So that is the basic aspect of UPSC you need to understand. Now, if we know, if we talk about the nature and pattern of examination, you know that there are three stages of examination: prelims, mains, and interview of this examination. But I will go beyond and I would say that actually there are uh, 6 stages of preparation in the examination. So what are these 6 stages of preparation in the examination? Suppose if we take that I am going to clear in 1 year. There is a first stage. According to me, this first stage will be lasting till January, till the month of January. Suppose I have to give this year examination and 2022, so we know that the examination is in June, till January. And ideally speaking, somewhere starting from your April, April to next January, This is the first stage I would call it as, and this is what I call it as the where you have to prepare pre come mains. Now, if you have inquired at several places for taking the classes, etc., etc., you might have seen some things, or if you have looked into the advertisements which many coaching institutes are doing, you will find what they do. They'll tell you कि अभी हमारे यहाँ प्रीलिम्स की क्लासेस चल रही हैं, फिर उसके बाद मेंस की क्लासेस चलेंगी, ठीक है? तो वो क्या करते हैं, दे विल शो यू दैट दिस इज प्रीलिम्स इज डिफरेंट एंड एक्चुअली द मेंस इज डिफरेंट. बट सपोज मैं कुछ पढ़ रहा हूँ, सपोज आई एम स्टडिंग एनी टॉपिक एंड suppose I am studying cyclone geography, because I teach geography, so I'll take an example from geography. I'm studying cyclone. अब मैं cyclone पढ़ रहा हूं, will I study the chapter holistically? First stage क्या होना चाहिए? Should I study the chapter holistically? हर aspect को देखूंगा. For example, I will look into what is cyclones. They are basically what? Low pressure centers or revolving low pressure centers. They are revolving anti-clockwise in the northern hemisphere, clockwise in the southern hemisphere. How many types they can be, I will study. Okay, there is tropical cyclone, there is temperate cyclone. I will look into, suppose I talk about tropical cyclone, how it is formed. You will, first thing you will study the preconditions required for the formation of tropical cyclones. Then the stages in the formation of tropical cyclones. Then other aspects, like for example, destruction caused by tropical cyclones. Other aspects like some recent things have been there, like recurving. Other aspects of tropical cyclone, like management of tropical cyclone. Other aspects, you know, आज के डेट में सबसे बड़ा विलेन कौन है? Global warming. So what global warming is doing with the tropical cyclone? Will I not study all these things? Tell me. ये सारी चीजें पढ़नी होंगी. Now, once I have read through, if once I have gone through, I will look into the previous year questions. And previous year question, दो तरह के एग्जाम है हमारे, prelims है and there is a mains. There must be some question on tropical cyclones. So if you look into, for example, the previous year papers of prelims, you'll find one question was there, that tropical cyclones are never formed in South Atlantic and Southeast Pacific. What is the reason for this? And there were 4 options which you had to choose. Why they are not formed there? Again, if you didn't had studied tropical cyclone holistically and you just had studied some factual elements related with tropical cyclones, will you be ever in a position to answer this? Tell me. You'll not be in a position to answer that. Now, suppose because I have studied the preconditions required for formation of tropical cyclone, and one of the precondition is कि वहां पर पहले से एक low pressure होना चाहिए, and that low pressure intensifies into tropical cyclone. So this I know. Now, if I know this, I also know that there is a low pressure belt, which you call it as equatorial belt or the ITCZ. It never shifts so much far away in South Atlantic and Southeast Pacific to lead to formation of tropical cyclone. So that is the primary reason. ठीक है, तो ये अगर मैंने फैक्टर्स प्री कंडीशंस पढ़ा है तो आई एम इन अ पोजीशन टू आंसर दिस क्वेश्चन. बट सपोज एक मेंस का क्वेश्चन आता है एंड द क्वेश्चन इज, इन रीसेंट टाइम्स नॉर्दर्न अटलांटिक हैज बिकम the hotspot of tropical cyclone activity. You might have heard number of category 4, category 5 storms hitting the Caribbean and the Florida coast of US. हर साल होता है. Every year it is in news almost. And the question can be comment or explain. Again, फिर से वही कहानी. I need to know what? The preconditions. अगर मुझे वो preconditions पता है तो मैं बता सकता हूं कि वो एरिया क्यों इतना इंपॉर्टेंट है साइक्लोनिक एक्टिविटी के लिए. ठीक है ना? सो अगेन, दिस इज व्हाट आई एम सेइंग, First thing what we have to do, we have to understand the syllabus. And in the syllabus, there are topics which can be classified as pre-cum mains. They have to be studied holistically. First stage of reading shouldn't be like I am just preparing for some exam. At first stage, we will study it excuse me, more generally. जैसे कि हम अपने बोर्ड एग्जाम में पढ़ते थे, तो जब बोर्ड एग्जाम में पढ़ते थे, what we used to do, didn't we used to study the entire chapter? That is what we used to do. And at that time we didn't think about the questions. पहले हम उसको पढ़ के समझते थे. And then only once we had done that, the next stage was we used to look into some previous year questions and we used to see कि हम क्या solve कर पा रहे हैं. That is what you have to do here. At least in this period, for first few months, the target has to be that first reading and then going through the previous year questions. Now, how we can make sure that we are preparing pre-com mains? Once I have done that, once I have read the chapter, tell me, can I go for separately solving objective, some objective questions which had been asked maybe previous year, maybe if not in previous year, maybe some test series, some objective questions based on that. And second, can I solve some subjective questions based on that? Yes or no? This is what we have to do. And this is how we will consolidate it. This is one way in which you also revise better. Suppose मैंने कुछ पढ़ा and मैंने क्वेश्चन लगाने शुरू किए. Is it possible that I will make mistakes? Yes or no? हो सकता है क्वेश्चन गलत हो जाए. Now when I will check the answers, सच में मुझे बताना, those things which we make mistakes, we ever forget those things in our life? कभी नहीं भूलते हम. They stick in our memory. So many people are they are afraid of making mistakes. But mistakes and learning from them makes you a better individual. So what I will be doing, I study one chapter, और ऐसा भी नहीं है कि एक वैसी प्लानिंग कर ली कि भाई वी हैव टू बी एसेंशियली कि जब मैं पूरा सिलेबस खत्म कर लूंगा तब जाकर के क्वेश्चन आंसर लगाना शुरू करूंगा. इट शुडंट वर्क लाइक दिस. एक चैप्टर पढ़ा एंड I straight away went to solve the questions. I look into today you have much more easy for you because there are a number of keys which are available in the market, and what you will do, there is already given sectional questions which are given, topic wise questions which are given there, and it is now very easy for you. हमारे टाइम में तो हमें खुद से हाथ से लिख के बनाना पड़ता था ढूंढ के. Now it is not like this. You already have that. So you have an advantage which will save you lots of time. So this is the thing first I will be doing. So this is for me, this is the first stage of the examination. Those of the students who have done well in this first stage are the ones who will be actually eligible for the second stage, remember. If you haven't done this stage well, ideally you are not eligible for the second stage. If you attempt it, 99% probability that you will ultimately fail. So this first stage has to be very well done. And the significance of this stage is, you might have seen that once a student qualifies prelims, ठीक है, देखोगे कि जब अगर सपोज का फाइनल सिलेक्शन नहीं होता है, he will again write prelims next year. And have you seen that most of those who have already qualified वो फिर से qualify करते हैं? There are some failures, कुछ लोग fail हो जाते हैं, no doubt, but that percentage is less. Most of the people who have qualified before, they will again qualify for prelims next year. So tell me, what do you think is the reason? क्या reason हो सकता है? Hmm? Okay, that is one thing. Hmm. If you ask me, the main reason is that they wrote mains. Once they wrote mains, कैसी भी प्रिपरेशन की, ठीक है, मेंस लेवल की प्रिपरेशन उतनी अच्छी नहीं हो पाई, बट स्टिल कैन वी से कि कुछ तो पढ़ा होगा मेंस के लिए ढंग से. एंड एक बार आपने मेंस को अपने कंसोलिडेट कर लिया 70%, 60% जितना भी, you will see that prelims will become very easy for you. Have you seen the syllabus? They haven't even given proper analysis of the prelim syllabus. If you have to look into what have to be studied for example, in the under geography, you'll have to look into the main syllabus. What needs to be studied? Same is the case of polity. Same is the case of other subjects. So the primary reason is that student who qualified, वो उसकी study continue रही, and he further consolidated this part, which is pre-cum mains, क्योंकि mains में तो ये पढ़ना ही है. And this was the primary reason कि अगले जब वो next prelims में बैठा, तो all these things were very well clear for him. So that is what I am saying, the case of eligibility. If you haven't done this well, then again, the next stage which I am going to tell you, it will be, there is very less chance that you'll get through. Once you are confident that you have done at least here well 1 2 3 readings at least, then you move on to the second stage, and this stage starts from your February till the prelims. Just one day before the prelims. For normal people like us, it is actually few minutes before prelims भी होता है, because I always have this habit कि वो एग्जाम में बैठने से पहले मैप जरूर देख के जाता था. एटलस मेरे हाथ में होती थी और वो लास्ट मोमेंट पे मुझे पता होते थे, बिकॉज if you look into the prelims question, every year they are asking some mappings, and many of them you have to have a very accurate image to mark the answers correctly. So I knew that this is something which I can make mistakes, so I used to always go through the atlas. So February till the prelims, just before the prelims examination, comes your second stage, and that is, I call it as, in this period you will prepare only prelims. Only for the prelims. And in this only for the prelims, there are two parts. One, revision of pre-cum mains, and there are some topics which you normally only prepare for prelims. Like for example, ancient and medieval history, normally we don't require that in mains. So हम उसको उस समय ना भी पढ़े तो चलेगा. Similarly, general science, you do not study that for mains. You study science and technology for mains, not general science. So biology, physics, chemistry, at least class 10th के level का NCERT cover होना चाहिए. So that is what? That is only mains. Geography में देखें, like we don't study world mapping from mains point of view. We study other things, like we study economic geography, we study the physical geography of the world, but we do not study the world mapping part from the mains point of view. So at this point of time, in only prelims, those topics which were not covered here in pre-cum mains, and those topics which are to be only covered as a part of prelims, these have to be consolidated, they have to be revised again and again. Okay. Important thing is, I will come to the revision strategies and everything, वो सब बाद में बात करेंगे, but that has to be done. So this for me is your second stage. And एक और बात बताता हूं, I am very carefully choosing my words. I could have written first phase, I could have written second phase, but I wrote stage. Stage एक term होता है. Essence of the term stage is that there is sequential development in stage always. So you go from one stage to other. Phases can change here and there, but stages do not change. There is a rigidity involved. So this is the second stage. Now, once we are done, then comes our third stage, and the third stage is the day of prelims. That is your third stage. And we will see that exam in itself is, no matter how much you are prepared, dealing in the examination hall is the key. There are so many students who work every year so much hard just because they are unable to take the pressure of the examination hall. They are not doing well in the examination. So it is a separate thing in altogether. So that is why I am saying that this is our finally the third stage. Okay? And again, once you have qualified, because जब prelims लिख करके आओगे, many students tell me कि मैं copy नहीं check करूँगा, I'll not evaluate my answers because there are so many mistakes in the keys, etc., etc. Really, I feel कि if you are serious enough, you will check your answers from whatever keys are available because they will give you an idea where you are. Once you have an idea, there will be less confusion for the next stage. And if there is less confusion for the next stage, definitely you will put up your best efforts. If you are confused, then what will happen? You will be at least wasting 1 month, minimum 1 month before the results are announced. And those 1 month, because now they are giving hardly 3 months, 3.5 months between pre and mains. Earlier it used to be more. It used to be more than 4 months. Now the time is very less what they are giving. So if you lose 1 month in that also, again, you can understand that it will be a disaster. So once you are there, confident in prelims, like I really feel the person who is getting around between 50 to 55% score should be someone who should be very confident about making it into the making it through the prelims examination, because no matter कि कितनी भी बड़ी बड़ी बातें करें लोग आते हैं, and many of the students particularly जो freshers होते हैं, they have the habit of inflating their score, emotionally attached होते हैं. So जो questions गलत हो गए, suppose एक की से चेक किया तो उसमें आंसर्स दिए हुए एंड दे बिकेम रॉन्ग, बट दूसरी की में सही दिया हुआ है तो उसको मानेंगे, उस वाले क्वेश्चन को उससे मानेंगे जहां से उनका आंसर ठीक हो जाए. So what happens? They inflate the score. But on an average, UPSC cutoff doesn't goes beyond 50%. Normally, there have been years when it was high because of CSAT particularly. But normally it doesn't goes beyond that. Now, once you are confident कि इतना score मेरा आ रहा है, you can relax 2, 3, 4 days, whatever you want to take your rest, and you can get on to the next stage. And the fourth stage is starting from the June after prelims, and this is till mains. And if you talk about, here is the preparation of, I would say, only mains now. In this only mains, you will have several things. For example, normally जब हम prelims देते हैं, तो for at least 2, 3 months we wouldn't have touched our optionals. So the first thing students should do is they start revising their optional subject. Others, some subjects can be there which might not would have been studied. For example, paper 4 ethics, उसका कोई काम नहीं है prelims में, ठीक है? So probably वो पढ़ा नहीं होगा, या पढ़ा होगा तो बहुत time हो गया होगा, there you would have revised. So those areas where you haven't worked particularly in the prelims, because prelims में हमने कुछ चीजों पे तो वर्क किया होगा, इस पे तो वर्क किया होगा. लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल मॉडर्न हिस्ट्री तो पढ़ के ही जाएंगे प्रीलिम्स में, या फिर इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन पढ़ के ही जाएंगे. So there will be areas even of mains we would have actually studied, but there would have been several areas which would have not been prepared, like world history, like India after independence. These are mains oriented topics. So basically, At this point of time, what I will do, I will focus upon those only main topics in the first month, and then gradually the entire mains. The key here should be that every day I have to write at least one answer. Every day. At least one answer. If you can more, right, it is well and good. And writing answers, I'll come to that later. You can understand that practicing is the key, no matter what, no matter how much knowledge you have. When I was first time writing my mains, one thing I realized, first day of the mains, mains examination is spread in number of days. So when I was writing first day, when I left my pen, I felt that I had written pathetically, very bad. But when I was giving my last paper of that mains, I really felt that my writing had improved. My way of writing, how I was presenting things, all that had improved. Can you imagine, just in a matter of 5 days, it had improved? Why? Because every day I was writing something. So that is the key. No matter how much knowledge you have, it doesn't matter. Every day, at least, I will try to write something. Summary, answer, whatever. I will try to write something. This is the area. Answer writing practice पहले भी होगी, as we saw. But because in prelims के pressure में हमने काफी time से answer writing की नहीं होगी, so this will be the time when we have to again start doing that very well. So that is my fourth stage. So this is the fourth stage of the examination. And finally, there will be the mains exam, which nowadays almost lasts for 1 week, as you know, because there is lots of gap between the GS papers, the general papers, and the optional paper. So this is your fifth stage. Again, we will see what all things to be done to manage it. So this is the fifth stage. Now, believe me, once your mains is over and you keep your pen, you know what is the result. You know whether you will get the interview call or not. वो बात अलग है कि बाहर निकलोगे, when you come out of the examination hall, you will meet some fellow students. Maybe you will ask कि इसमें तूने क्या लिखा, तो वो कुछ बताएगा तुम्हें. तो you will feel कि इससे better तो मैं ही हूँ. इसका मतलब मुझे तो marks मिल जाएंगे. And what happens is that real evaluation which was present in that examination hall, you slowly, as you discuss more and more with people, you tend to forget that real evaluation with time. And this is the reason, अगले कुछ घंटों के अंदर, what happens, अभी तो social media is another platform where you have so much of interaction with other people. You even don't know कि सामने वाला कौन है. Even the person who is typing, he is man, human being, or some other animal who is typing, we don't know. Whatever, but we tend to believe कि सामने वाला कोई genius ही बैठा होके बात कर रहा है. And ultimately what happens, we tend to inflate our scores. This is one of the reasons that many of the students are surprised after the results come, because they didn't objectively evaluate. मेरे साथ भी हुआ था. I was thinking, for example, in one of the papers of GS, I really felt I was very strong. And I was calculating something like कि इसमें 180, 185 तो आएगा ही आएगा. Marks आए 114. I was like shocked. How it this much less marks? This I didn't expect it. I really felt my paper went well. What was the main problem? I didn't evaluate properly myself. There were number of questions, number of keywords. Like for example, there was one question I still remember. Critically examine the role of Indian Council of Agriculture Research in the economic development of India. And what happened? उसमें critically word भूल गया. Critique तो किया ही नहीं. I just wrote what things has been done by Indian Council of Agriculture Research. And जब मैंने आंसर ही नहीं किया जो पूछा गया है, obviously I'll get less marks. And what happened? This was repeated throughout the paper. बट वाई आई वॉज कैलकुलेटिंग 185? बिकॉज मैंने अपने दोस्तों से बात की तो हम सब ने वही लिखा था, ठीक है यार फिर तो मजे आ गए, एंड अल्टीमेटली वी ऑल फेल्ट कि इतने इतने मार्क्स आ जाएंगे. So all of them had done the same mistake and all of them got the same result. So that is the key in this fifth stage, managing it, not making mistakes, being very calm. Like a third attempt, I told you I didn't qualify for the interview. बाद में जब मार्क्स आए तो पता चला कि जिस पेपर को, फर्स्ट पेपर को मैं सोच रहा था कि मार्क्स खराब हो गए हैं, बिकॉज बिफोर दैट it was actually essay paper. First paper used to be essay paper. So before that my essay score was somewhere around 130s में था, और बहुत खराब होने के बाद भी वो कितने हुए, 104. So 30 मार्क्स ही लूज किए मैंने. लेकिन क्या हुआ, बिकॉज आई गॉट डिप्रेस्ड, I did badly in the other papers. And that 30 marks actually didn't affect. Still, I could have got the interview call. What affected was the performance in the other papers. So it is like mains examination is like a cricket match. हर बॉल पे छक्का नहीं मार सकते. There can be scenarios where you might not perform well. You have to cover up wherever you will ultimately get the chance, and UPSC will give you lots of chances. Okay, so that is the fifth stage of the examination, and once you are done with this stage, then comes your sixth stage, that is the interview preparation. अब देखो इंटरव्यू प्रिपरेशन जो होता है, why I am saying that it is a kind of, why are only six stages and not the 7 stages. Okay, so I'll tell you the reason. Starting में I told you that UPSC is a kind of very opaque organization. It doesn't give lots of information to you. You cannot see your copies. And mains examination, you know, it is a subjective exam. So no one can be 100% sure that he or she has done very well in the exam. So essentially what happens, even if you have done well in mains, still you cannot be even, I would say 70%, 80% confident that you will get through. There will be a good feeling, that is a different thing. But that level of confidence will not be there. That means when you are present here in this interview preparation stage, you will go back to where? That pre-com mains stage. Again, you will do what? You will start your revisions, or if you left out something which you felt you should have been studied, because now by this time maybe you would have got the experience of the mains, and you will again read new things if they are to be read. So it goes on. And simultaneously, along with this, you will also do your interview preparation. And later we will see interview preparation. For me, interview preparation is just few things. One, it is your DAF, which you have filled, and some reading of the current affairs. इससे ज़्यादा इंटरव्यू प्रिपरेशन के लिए कुछ नहीं चाहिए होता. If you have done this thoroughly, your interview is prepared. And we will see later, interview with respect to interview, one thing has changed in UPSC. Personally, I used to see that very kind of students which used to get very high marks in the interview earlier used to be ones who were like very elite, who used to be like वो जो एक होता है ना कि बहुत ज़्यादा एलीट क्लास से आया है तो उसके चेहरे से वो एलीटनेस टपक रहा है, ठीक है. Those were the type of people who used to get very high marks in the interview. And now I have seen the trend has changed. UPSC has definitely improved here. The way they are testing your personality. Now you see past few years, the toppers who are there, can you see they are very ground to earth people? Most of the toppers interview you read and they'll tell you very real things, what actually happened.